before you scroll past this is not a video. It's a mirror. And it's pointed at you. Tonight, your bedroom becomes boring, only because thousands of forgotten nights were terrifying first. Picture this. You complain because your pillow feels wrong, your room is warm, and your phone battery is at 9%. Then, rewind the story until the mattress disappears. The roof disappears, the door disappears, and the blue glow in your hand disappears too. Now you are outside, wearing hide, sitting beside people who are just as tired as you are, while a branch snaps beyond the trees. Nobody says anything for a second. Everyone hears it. Everyone imagines teeth. And that sound changes the whole night. So the real question is not just, did ancient people sleep? The question is, how did they survive the hours when the sun abandoned them? Did they close their eyes? Did they take turns guarding? Did they whisper stories to keep fear from getting too loud? Or did the darkness become a second life with its own jobs, rituals, rules, jokes, and dangers? For most of our journey, night was not a pause button. It was a test. And the people who failed that test usually did not get to become ancestors. Long before alarm clocks, street lamps, locks, and late-night snacks, darkness was weight, not dimness, not mood lighting. Darkness so complete that your own hand could vanish inches from your face. Every sound became information. A rustle could be wind, a bird, a child moving in sleep, or a predator calculating distance. That uncertainty was exhausting. But it also trained the human mind to listen deeply. Before we mastered the night mastered our attention. Early humans had a design flaw for this environment. We are not fast like cats. We do not smell like wolves. Our night vision is embarrassing compared with animals hunting after sunset. A leopard does not need a motivational speech to move silently. A hyena does not need a flashlight. Ancient people entered the dark with good brains, decent hands, and a strong reason to stay near each other. Alone, a human was vulnerable. Together, a human group became something else. The first strategy was simple. Improve the odds. Sleep by rock walls. Choose ledges, caves, shelters, or places where danger had fewer directions to approach from. If the entrance was narrow, the group had a chance. If the back was stone, nothing could creep from behind. A cave was not a cozy apartment. It was cold, smoky, damp, smelled like every bad decision the tribe had made that week. But it had one feature. The threat had to come through the front. Isn't that strange? Our oldest version of home may not have been about comfort at all. It may have been about reducing angles of attack. A wall was safety before it was decoration. A doorway was strategy before it was architecture. Inside those shelters, people slept close. Not because it looked sweet in a painting, but because bodies are heaters. A sleeping band could share warmth, hear movement, notice coughing, protect children, and wake each other before panic became disaster. Someone always stirred. Someone always slept lightly. Someone heard the odd footstep, the changed breathing, the stone shifting near the entrance. No one needed to invent a night guard. If the group naturally contained babies, elders, restless adults, anxious sleepers, and that person who wakes up every time a leaf has an opinion. Evolution loves messy teamwork. Then fire entered the story, and the night shifted. The control of fire did not merely make ancient people warmer. It created a border. On one side, faces, hands, food, voices. On the other side, blackness nearby. Fire made a circle where humans could sit inside their own little sunrise. It pushed back insects. It warned animals. It dried wet skin. It turned raw meat into richer food. It made cold less cruel. But most importantly, it gave the group a center. And a center changes behavior. Think about it. When people sit around flames, their bodies face inward. Their eyes meet. Their hands are free. The day's urgency softens. You cannot chase a deer at midnight with perfect confidence. You cannot gather berries in total blackness and expect great results. So the evening creates a new kind of productivity. Memory, teaching, bonding, planning, laughing around fire. Humans were not wasting time. They were building culture. Modern studies of hunter-gatherer communities give us a window into this. Daytime talk often tends to be practical. Where to go, what to bring, who saw tracks, which plant is ready, who needs help. But after dark, the conversation often shifts. Stories appear. Jokes become longer. Lessons hide inside characters. Ancestors return through spoken words. The camp becomes a theater without walls. The flames become editing software, lighting crew, and effects department all at once. What did a story do for people who had no books, no notes, no cloud storage, no school buildings? Everything. It carried warnings. Do not cross that ridge alone. It carried morals. Greedy people ruin the band. It carried maps. Water is beyond the red stones. It carried identity. This is who we are. And this is why we matter. The first screen was firelight on a human face. Before cinema, there was a voice in the dark. That means night may have helped make us more human. Not because it was easy, but because it forced stillness. Daylight scattered people into work. Darkness pulled them inward. A child listening beside the fire learned courage before needing it. A teenager heard who was respected and why. A grieving adult heard old names spoken again. A skilled storyteller could become valuable not by throwing a spear farther, but by holding the group's attention and shaping its memory. And maybe that is why even now, thousands of years later, we still gather around glowing rectangles at night to watch danger, love, betrayal, heroes, monsters, survival, jokes, and endings. We changed the technology. The hunger stayed. But sleep itself is where the story becomes even stranger. Because your body may know a night pattern your schedule has tried to erase. Today, many people treat sleep like a locked file. You close your eyes, disappear for 8 hours, open them in the morning, and anything else feels like failure. Wake up at 3 a.m., and suddenly your mind becomes a courtroom. Why am I awake? Is something wrong? Should I search symptoms? Should I drink water? Should I rethink every conversation from 2018? For much of human history, that panic seemed unnecessary. Evidence from historical records suggests people once slept in 2 portions. They would rest after evening darkness, wake calmly for a quiet interval, then sleep again until dawn. Those middle hours were not considered a medical emergency. They were part of the night. People prayed, talked softly, tended embers, thought about dreams, checked animals, comforted children, or simply lay awake without assuming their biology had betrayed them. Imagine that. Waking in darkness and not immediately blaming yourself. What if the hour you call insomnia was once considered normal? This does not mean everyone everywhere slept identically. Sleep has always been shaped by climate, danger, work, age, season, and culture. But the idea that sleep must be one unbroken modern block is newer than most people realize. Artificial light stretched the evening. Work schedules compressed rest. Electric brightness told the brain that night could be delayed. Over time, the old gap between sleeping periods became less familiar. Then, when it reappeared in a modern bedroom, it felt like a glitch. So maybe the next time you wake in the quiet middle of the night, calm but alert, you do not need to start doom scrolling. Maybe you can recognize the feeling. A quiet mind. A dark room. Thoughts arriving slowly. For your ancestors, that space may have been for reflection, intimacy, prayer, caution, or listening to the fire settle into coals. Your body is older than your routine. Sometimes it remembers before you understand. Now let's talk about the ground beneath them, because ancient sleep was not just collapsing onto dirt like a tired cartoon. Humans are problem solvers. Even when the problem is, everything bites me when I lie down. Archaeological finds from southern Africa suggest early people created bedding from layers of plants, grasses, leaves, and other materials. Some sleeping areas show evidence of ash underneath, useful for discouraging insects and pests. Think about the intelligence inside that. Someone noticed a pattern. Bugs hate this residue. Put it under the sleeping place. Wake with fewer bites. Repeat, teach others. Improve. That is not primitive behavior. That is experimentation. It is the same mental engine that later builds medicine, engineering, and science. It begins with, I suffered yesterday, can I suffer less tomorrow? Human progress may have started with an itchy back and a suspicious pile of ash. In colder lands, the sleep challenge changed. The enemy was not always teeth or insects. Sometimes it was temperature. During Ice Age conditions, cold could kill quietly. The solution was not heroic. It was practical. Get closer. Share warmth. Sleep as a cluster. Wrap hides around bodies. Put children in protected positions. Use the shelter shape to trap heat. Keep embers alive. A group was not just social support. It was a living blanket. How many modern people say they need personal space, while forgetting that personal space was once a luxury? For ancient humans, closeness meant survival. The breath of another person could be reassurance. The pressure of a shoulder could mean you might see morning. Before privacy became valuable, proximity was protection. This also helps explain why night carried emotional power. When danger, cold, dreams, stories, fire, and family all meet in the same hours, darkness becomes more than a lack of light. It becomes sacred territory. Across ancient societies, the night sky was not background scenery. It was a calendar, a clock, a warning system, a roadmap, and a spiritual ceiling written in sparks. Look up from a place without city glow, and the sky is overwhelming. The Milky Way is not a faint smear. It is a river. Stars do not decorate the night. They dominate it. For people without printed maps, a changing sky could tell season, direction, time, and meaning. The heavens moved, and humans watched, because watching mattered. A missed pattern could mean a missed migration, a failed planting, or a dangerous decision. Ancient astronomers and priestly experts studied eclipses, planets, dawn stars, moon cycles, and seasonal constellations with serious attention. Their explanations were often religious or mythic, but their observation could be incredibly disciplined. They were asking, what repeats? What changes? What follows what? That question sits at the root of science, even when the answers are wrapped in gods, omens, and rituals. For some cultures, the sunset was not a simple sunset. It was the sun entering danger. Dawn was not merely morning. It was victory returning. Imagine living with that emotional rhythm every day. The world loses its main light. The community waits. The sky tells stories. Rituals give people a role in cosmic uncertainty. If the sun rises again, relief returns with it. Every morning becomes proof that the world survived the night. And then there were people who used darkness for skills so advanced they still feel almost magical. Polynesian navigators crossed ocean distances without modern instruments. At night, stars helped guide direction. Swells, winds, birds, clouds, and memory worked together like a living navigation system. The ocean was not empty to them. It was full of signals. A star rising in the right place could matter as much as any signpost. A wave pattern could speak. A bird at evening could reveal land beyond the horizon. Can you imagine steering across black water while the sky itself is your map? Not a romantic little boat ride. A vast Pacific night. Wooden craft under you. Salt on skin. Children or crew trusting your knowledge, and no glowing arrow telling you to turn left in 300 meters. The dark did not blind them. It gave them information. Other night workers used darkness differently. Metalworkers in parts of Africa fired furnaces after sunset because heated metal shows its colors more clearly against black surroundings. Red, orange, yellow, white, each shade could reveal temperature and readiness. Daylight could wash out those subtle changes. Darkness became a measuring tool. That is a reversal. The thing we think hides information was used to reveal it. In early cities, night also became a schedule. Some dirty, necessary work happened after sunset because crowded places need systems. Waste collection, cleaning, guarding, delivery, animal care, water management, and other tasks could shift into cooler or less disruptive hours. Farmers in dry regions sometimes watered fields at night to reduce evaporation. Fishermen worked by moon, lamp, season, tide, and habit. Northern people extended long winters with lamps fed by fat or oil, creating pockets of human activity inside hours that might otherwise swallow a household. So no, the ancient night was not just people lying in fear until breakfast existed. It was busy. It was organized. It was intelligent. The darkness was not empty. Our imagination of it is. There is another overlooked detail. Night changed status. In daylight, the strongest runner, best tracker, or sharpest toolmaker could dominate attention. After sunset, different talents became powerful. The patient person who remembered migration routes mattered. The elder who knew dangerous dreams mattered. The quiet observer who recognized an unusual animal call mattered. The funny one who could make a frightened camp laugh mattered. Darkness redistributed importance. It gave value to memory, calm, timing, and emotional control. Around the fire, a weak body could still carry a strong world. The moon mattered too. Full moon nights could extend movement, hunting, gathering, ceremonies, or travel. New moon nights tightened the circle and made fire more precious. Clouds could erase the sky's guidance. Rain could turn warmth into a problem. Wind could send sparks into sleeping skins or carry scent toward animals. Every night had a personality, and ancient people had to read it quickly. We look at a forecast app. They read air, insects, stars, smoke, animal noise, and the mood of the group. That is not superstition. That is high-stakes attention. Even children learned by being there. A child heard adults lower their voices when danger felt close. They learned which sounds mattered and which could be ignored. They learned where to sit, when to feed a fire, how to keep sparks safe, how to stay quiet, how to share warmth without complaint. Night education did not need a classroom. The lesson was happening all around them. The dark was a teacher with no patience for foolishness. That pressure shaped imagination too. When you cannot see far, the mind completes the picture. It turns sounds into stories before anyone speaks. Maybe that is why myth, caution, and wonder fit darkness so naturally. The unseen world was frightening, but it also made room for meaning together. There was fear, yes, real fear. A parent listening for a child's breathing. A hunter waking at a sound. A group tightening when eyes shone beyond the fire. But fear was only one layer. There was also tenderness. Someone covering an elder with hide. Someone feeding a baby. Someone moving closer because another person was shaking. There was humor. A joke landing better because everyone was tired. There was desire, grief, boredom, awe, and probably endless complaining about smoke blowing directly into the face of the one person who had already had enough. That is what makes ancient life recognizable. Strip away electricity, furniture, roads, clocks, and written language, and you still find people managing the same human feelings. Worry, love, jealousy, hunger, pride, exhaustion, curiosity. The night intensified all of them, because it removed distraction. When the world shrank to a cave, a fire, a sky, and the breathing bodies nearby, life became concentrated. Maybe that is the part modern people struggle to understand. We defeated darkness so thoroughly that we also diluted it. A modern night can look almost exactly like day, just with more screens and worse decisions. We can order food, answer messages, watch 10 episodes, work late, shop, scroll, argue, and distract ourselves until sleep finally wins by force. Ancient people did not always have that escape. The night asked them to be present, and presence can feel terrifying when you are used to noise. But presence also creates meaning. A story told at midnight lands differently than the same story told while carrying water at noon. A star learned in childhood becomes a guide years later. A dream discussed between sleeps can change how a person understands grief. A shared watch can turn strangers into kin. A fire tended by many hands becomes more than fuel. It becomes proof of belonging. If this is making the past sound beautiful, we should be careful. Ancient nights were not cozy retreats designed by a lifestyle influencer with Stone Age candles. They were dangerous, cold, smoky, painful, insect-ridden, and filled with uncertainty. Many people died young. Injuries mattered. Infection mattered. Hunger mattered. Predators were not symbolic. Weather did not care about your personal growth. The past was not better. But it was deeper in ways we have almost forgotten. And that depth shows up in one simple fact. Humans learned to inhabit darkness instead of merely waiting for light. They turned caves into shelters, fire into a boundary, stories into memory, split sleep into rhythm, bedding into technology, stars into maps, ritual into courage, night work into community logistics, fear into attention, attention into knowledge. So what did ancient humans do after sunset? They protected each other. They cooked. They repaired tools. They watched children. They listened. They slept and woke and slept again. They flirted, mourned, prayed, argued, planned, remembered, navigated, worked, studied, and imagined. In other words, they lived. And maybe this matters because you are still carrying their night inside you. Your nervous system still reacts to unexplained sounds. Your eyes still love firelight. Your mind still becomes unusually honest in the dark. Your deepest thoughts often arrive when the world is quiet enough to hear them. Why do campfires still feel intimate? Why do horror stories work better at night? Why does a 3 a.m. thought feel heavier than the same thought at lunch? Because darkness changes the room inside your head. The ancients did not have our comfort, but they had a relationship with night. Most of us have an argument with it. We try to overpower it, brighten it, schedule it, ignore it, medicate it, stream through it, and complain when the body resists. Yet under all that modern brightness, an older rhythm is still tapping on the wall. Slow down, look up, listen, rest in phases. Let quiet be quiet. You do not have to become prehistoric to learn from prehistory. Near the end of this story, there is one image worth keeping. A small group under a huge sky. Fire low. Children asleep. Someone awake. Not panicked, just watching sparks rise. Beyond the circle, animals move. Above it, stars move. Inside it, a voice begins another story, and everyone who is awake turns toward the sound. That scene is not weakness. It is civilization before architecture. It is culture before writing. It is humanity practicing itself in the dark. So tonight, when your room goes silent, try one small experiment. Before grabbing your phone, notice the darkness. Notice how your mind changes when nothing is asking for your attention. If you wake in the middle hours, do not instantly treat it like a disaster. Breathe. Think. Let the old human part of you have a minute. Maybe it is not broken. Maybe it is remembering the fire. And if this story made you see the night differently, like this video, because it helps winds of thought reach more curious minds, then leave a comment with the strangest thing you have ever thought about at night. Because somewhere between fear and wonder, between sleep and waking, between the first spark and the final star before dawn, there is a truth our ancestors knew very well. The night was never nothing. It was the oldest classroom, the first theater, the earliest security system, the quiet laboratory, the sacred map, and the place where human beings learned to sit together against the unknown. We did not simply survive darkness. We gave it meaning, and that meaning is still waiting there every time the lights go out.